Welcome to the Sourcing Industry Landscape Podcast, powered by SIG.org and hosted by Dawn Tiura.
Well, folks, welcome back to the podcast series. I am so excited today to be chatting with somebody that I first chatted with. Ironically, we were just talking about it 20 years ago when he first started in consulting. So today I'm going to be meeting with Jake Taylor, and what we're going to be talking about is how every procurement organization wants to add more strategic value to the enterprise, but not every organization needs a full-scale transformation. So we're going to talk about that buzzword. He's going to discuss how leaders can choose your own adventure, which I'm excited to hear about. And we're going to talk about diagnosing the real problem, how to move beyond generic improvement goals and clearly identify root causes across stakeholders, processes, data, capabilities, and technology. So Jake, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So folks, if you don't know Jake, make sure you reach out to him and add him to your network. He's a managing director with ProcureAbility. He's drawing on over 20 years of supply chain and procurement expertise to help his clients realize and sustain meaningful change to their organizations. He focuses on cross-industry and cross-geography, which, a fun fact, Antarctica is the only remaining continent to work in. So if any listeners here have offices in Antarctica, make sure to reach out to Jake so he can complete his world tour. So Jake, I'm so excited to have you here.
Happy to be here.
So folks, we're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. And when we get back, we're going to be listening and discussing with Jake Taylor from ProcureAbility. So we'll be right back.
Sourcing Industry Group, or SIG, is the premier global sourcing association and is widely known as a forum for providing thought leadership, networking, and training opportunities. Another central element of SIG is training. SIG is the parent organization for SIG University, which was founded on the ideals of elevating sourcing and risk professionals to deliver strategic value to their organizations and transform their careers. It was created at the request of SIG members who saw an educational training gap for today's workforce and offers one-of-a-kind certification and training programs for professionals seeking deep expertise in sourcing, governance, risk, intelligent automation, and more for themselves and for their teams. We perfected e-learning for adults before it was necessary. Our proven model for adult learners provides a flexible environment with online lessons, quizzes, and discussion forums moderated by expert faculty. Programs are offered in several different delivery models depending on you or your organization's need. Open cohort semesters start on average every 1.5 months, while closed cohorts for teams of 20 or more can start at any time. In addition, we also have self-paced or fast-track options. You can learn more about all of these offerings on the SIG website or by reaching out to one of our representatives. So make sure to take advantage of all that SIG has to offer for both members and non-members alike, because there really is something for everyone.
Well, welcome back. The buzzword transformation. How many years have we been saying it? 6, 7? More than that? I don't know. It's the most overused word in business today. Every procurement organization I talk to is going through some sort of transformation. Yet often these are slower and more costly than expected. So what are you seeing with your clients, and how do you think the word is being used today? Properly or not?
Oh, for sure, overused. And the only constant is change is an apt axiom for a reason, right? We're all living in a world of disruption, and don't worry, I'm not going to talk about AI here today. But because of technology, because of tariffs, because of planning for the next COVID-like environment, all these factors are changing how procurement organizations will need to communicate with its supply base, with its partners, business stakeholders. And this is a good thing, right? From a macro perspective, constant change, if uncomfortable, keeps us improvement focused and nimble. And however, too often change is undefined, and that's where scope creep and timeline slippage occurs.
Absolutely right. Because I do think as you start through a change initiative and more change comes at you, you say, well, I should add to this, and I should look at this, and I should look at that as well. But I tell people, they say it's like drinking out of a fire hose. And when is it going to stop? And I said, it's not. So you either have to learn to swallow faster or quit drinking and walk away, because it's not going to slow down. Do you see it slowing down at all?
No, definitely not. Right. And there's constant bombardment of the need for change from leadership, from your stakeholders, from your own team. and where to start is really the problem.
So if I'm a CPO or a transformation lead dealing with these delays or slowdown in the transformation that I want, where should I start?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So first, clearly defining a problem statement is critical, right? There's lots of good reasons for a procurement leader to initiate a transformation or some focus of change, right? Procurement may not be liked by the business, right? If we're being honest, that's a common situation. And that's from procurements being slow or opaque or stakeholders having to wait forever for their little need that they have. A team can be tactical versus strategic in nature, or underperforming, under-resourced. And these are all good reasons for the need for some sort of transformation, but they're anecdotal. They're based on emotion and not data. So the first step is to identify a meaningful, measurable problem statement. Where are you today, and what does success look like, and how long will it take you to get there? For example, improving your PR to PO cycle times from 60 days to 30 days, or even to be able to, in 1 year from now, collect data to measure your PR to PO cycle times effectively. And this is best accomplished by a full assessment of the current state, collecting the data, even if it's poor data, right? Interviewing your customers, your stakeholders, and benchmarking your metrics, which will lead to a clear business case or a scoping document that needs to be approved and signed off by leadership and by the rest of your organization. And without this initial assessment and business case, you're just doing change for change's sake.
Well, I like the idea of saying that procurement's not liked or the process is slow. You're right. That's anecdotal. I'm telling a story, but I'm not telling I'm not identifying any kind of root causes or where I am today. Right. Is it just perception or is it reality? So I think that's really important, but it sounds like a lot of work just to get the initiative started. I already know I need a transformation. So how do I do it? How can I get through that assessment phase pretty quickly?
Yeah. I mean, look, it is a lot of work, right? And that's why so many organizations gloss over it and kind of don't give it the heft that it truly deserves. So to really get through that assessment, you have to focus on the resources and the manpower to do it. Look, we all have our day jobs, right? Of ensuring the lights stay on, the machines are running, the lines running, the stakeholders are getting the goods and services that they're demanding in a timely fashion. So you need to dedicate this almost like a special project in of itself and have people accountable with timelines, project management, all those factors. Otherwise, yeah, it will be that anecdotal, emotional need for change versus something fact-based and proof.
All right. So let's say I've done my assessment. I have my problem statement. I developed my business case. Yep. I got it approved by my bosses and it's funded. So what tips now do you have for me not to get bogged down in endless transformation, to really stay on point?
Yeah. This is the fun part. And this is where I call it the choose your own adventure, right? Just not to date myself, but like the books I grew up with where, should you go through the red door, go to page 52, right? So a number of key questions here, right? So first one is, how acute is the issue you're trying to solve, right? And there's really two paths here, or two doors, right? The first one is the tune path, right? Which is more focused change, more internal focusing to supply chain or procurement, where there's not a burning platform to solve for, right? We're fixing some processes, we're updating some technology usage, rewriting our procurement manual, right? That you're addressing internal procurement processes, right? The quick wins, so to speak. The other path is the full-born transformation path, where cross-organizational change is needed, where there is a big burning platform problem to solve for, where, like we said, procurement may not be well liked, and that's going to take more than just updating a procurement manual to solve that. That is institutional change, right? And addressing kind of and scoping those two potential paths based on your acute issue you're trying to solve for will really kind of be that scoping guideline that you need to focus on the rest, right? And the next question is, do you have an executive or C-suite level mandate to support the change, right? Very clearly, if you do not, focus on the tune path, right? This is where basically you're just focusing on internal processes. You're building your quick wins and developing change that stakeholders can point to if you try to roll it out to a bigger group. But if you do have that C-suite mandate, which is someone that sits above all the business units that can speak to a larger organizational change, then you should continue on with your transformational path. The next question then, really, which is the key one, and it's a tricky one to answer, is how is the business stakeholder resistance to your change? What level of resistance is there, right? And there's actually 3 doors here to choose from. The first one being there is no support, right? You need to perform a stakeholder analysis looking at across the organization, who are your stakeholders, who are your skeptics, and do an honest assessment of how hard will that change be. And if you truly believe that, well, we are a decentralized organization, change is going to be incredibly difficult, focus on the tuning path, right? So get those quick wins, proof of concept, build your change champions, and perhaps do a larger transformation in year 2. The more often path here with your stakeholders is, well, I have some support, I think, right? Which is where you're going to have to then build on your influence as a procurement leader, or what's in it for them, right? Plus your mandate push that you have if you're going down the transformation path with your C-suite, right? If this is the case, then you can continue on your transformation. And then I do want to point out there is a third door, which is a little more rare, but does exist, which is where you may have a very top-down organization. And then if your CEO says something's going to happen, or your CFO, it's going to happen. Well, then clearly, congratulations, change will be relatively easier here, and you can continue on the transformation path. So one last question here.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Dawn, go ahead.
No, I'm going to say, but you still have to focus on the fact that even if you have a top-down mandate, people will change, but sometimes it's reluctant. So you still have to have strong change management in your transformation, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You can't purely rely, unless it's that rare situation where, the CEO says and everything gets done. Influence is key, right? Change management. We are so often brought in midstream into a transformation that's gone wrong because of just that point, right? We thought we have the mandate. We have a very clear, project plan, but it's not happening. It's delayed and the goalposts are being moved. It's because of, exactly to your point, well, there's resistance in the organizations that you didn't plan on. Everyone will nod their head and say, yes, we need to improve. We need to be better. Let's change because all organizations are changing. But then when you go to them, they say, oh, well, not me, right? Not my team, not my processes. I'm not going to give up my contract management team. This is where the rubber hits the road with actually affecting change, which is, again, relying on the influence and what's in it for your stakeholders and not just that top-down mandate.
Well, and I think that's so important, is to be able to speak their speak. So how am I going to help them attain their goals through this transformation? How am I going to deliver success to them? So I think that's so important. So if I had a main takeaway for the audience to take away from this discussion about transformation, what would your advice be?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's two key points here to review, right? Which is any change needs to be measurable, right? Both in the current state, where are you today? It can't just be anecdotal, but also the future state. So what does success look like? How long is it going to take to get there? How do you know when you've gotten there, right? And without this, as I said, the goalposts will just consistently be moved, which leads to delays and cost overruns. And then finally, if change touches outside of your procurement organization, which most transformations do, that C-suite mandate is essential, right? To mix with your influence and the what's in it for your stakeholders. But let's be honest, it's very difficult just on your own as a procurement leader to convince other business units, the engineering leads, the marketing leads, to come along with you for that journey. So without this, a more focused tuning approach should be undertaken than that full-blown transformation.
So do you ever, this is just a hypothetical, but have you ever found an organization where the CPO doesn't carry a lot of influence, but the team needs that influence, so they have to build it themselves? Can they build that influence without the CPO having it themselves?
Well, more often we see the CPO has less influence than he or she believes that they have, right? And if that is the case, or to your question, if they just don't have it full steam, they need to show their worth through the strategic value that they bring to the organization. If a procurement group is kind of put into a box of being very tactical, the business needs this contract signed yesterday and hurry up, and I need this. I've already picked the suppliers and negotiated on your behalf, so just sign the contract, please. It's very, very, if not impossible, to show that value. And that's where then this transformation outside of purely the CPO lead, where you need that stakeholder mandate to help influence into the rest of the organization, to show the value, to change the status quo. That's what's critical there.
I like this. So, Jake, tell me a little bit about your career. How did you get to where you are today?
Oh, it's been a winding journey, that's for sure. So, without boring you with the long ago details, I decided to go back to business school to be more strategic, more global, to working with businesses and working with different stakeholders. So I joined consulting, strategic consulting, to do just that, right? We're lucky in the procurement world to work cross industry, right? All of our companies that we work for buy things, right? And they buy not just locally, but globally or nationally. And they buy services and they buy materials. And now tariffs are affecting our strategy for purchasing materials. So it's about as strategic and vital to the business as you can get. So my career, I've kind of focused on cutting my teeth with RFPs and sourcing and negotiating, to now really focusing on these transformations to make lasting change within organizations.
How long have you been at ProcureAbility?
It's been 6 years, and it's been quite a journey. It's gone by super fast, and I've learned a ton working with a number of clients here at ProcureAbility, and I look forward to the next 6 years. That's
awesome. Now, where are you located geographically?
I sit in New York City. You're looking at my home office here, right in the city. But I enjoy, getting out of this office, out of the city, and traveling to where my clients may be. And right now, I'm spending a lot of time in Canada, which is, warmer, surprisingly, than New York City at the moment. But I enjoy getting out of this office.
That's awesome. So, folks, this is Jake Taylor from ProcureAbility. Make sure you reach out to him on LinkedIn. Make sure he's part of your network. As you can tell, very approachable, very good advice. So I encourage you folks, pick up the phone, pick up an email, get in touch with Jake, carry on the conversation. And then if you do have a big transformation, think about talking it over with Jake. He can give you some really good advice. So Jake, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So folks, tune into the podcast wherever you consume your normal podcasts, and hopefully you'll see us on another edition very soon. Thanks. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for listening. Subscribe to the Sourcing Industry Landscape podcast through iTunes or your favorite podcast app. Want to nominate yourself or someone else for an interview? Email us at podcast@sig.org.